Help is coming.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of FBI Season 6, Episode 6 Review, Unforeseen. Maggie had a difficult case. On FBI Season 6, Episode 6, the crew had to track down a terrorist who was killing people with ricin, which brought back unpleasant memories for her. Furthermore, her old friend Jessica, who had recently re-entered her life, became involved in this case, much to her detriment. We should have expected a gas attack. The indications were present. Her Quantico classmate appeared unexpectedly. Maggie heard her biological clock ticking, exploring motherhood. Nonetheless, how things unfolded in this episode represents an unusual path to parenthood. Let's face it, Maggie needed a change in her life, whether professionally or personally. Her romance with Nestor ended on FBI Season 3, Episode 6. Maggie has since been on the verge of becoming one of those monotonous, aging workaholics. She has demonstrated no interest in advancing to management. Furthermore, protecting Oa from himself is a full-time job as seen with wealthy party girl Gemma. Daylight Massacre. Then, on FBI Season 6, Episode 4, Jess returned to her life. Here was someone she knew who was crushing it at work, while also leading a meaningful life away from work without a man. Jessica's predicament was certain to appeal to Maggie, who is yet to meet a man who fulfills her criteria. Working women can have it all. Despite Jessica's efforts to portray a balanced picture of single motherhood, Maggie was still considering either. When she proposed the option to Isabel during her yearly performance review, it was clear she was serious, and Isabel enthusiastically agreed. In Finding Killer, Scola explores how Isabel handles the conflicting work and personal lives of agents. Surprisingly, he is still working for her after she concealed the news that pregnant Nina was shot during the FBI crossover. At least Nina switched teams. Maggie's question about Jess's well-being hinted at potential problems. She had the fatigued parent expression, so it was easy not to think about it. However, there were further clues after that, such as Jessica charging into a bioweapon chemist's lab. Any agent should have known to wait for a hazmat crew to clear the area. But she looked fine in the ambulance, and even better when she called Maggie from the hospital. So this was simply another false alarm. Maggie experienced a series of health issues, including dehydration, a dip in blood pressure, and surgery for an aneurysm. But the kiss of death for Jess came when she appointed Maggie as Ella's interim guardian. That's when you realized her storyline was almost over. Maggie was completely stunned when the surgeon broke the dreadful news regarding Jessica. She and the little girl are set to become very close as they mourn Jess, one's friend and the other's mother.